to see how everyone was doing, and feeling at this time, this very strange time of lockdown. And as Ella said, week 7, I never thought of that in that day. I think we're all counting days. Counting weeks is even more difficult. But hey, so let's the name of our meeting today it's a very tragic name. Is it an end of an era? Is it the end of an era? What's going to happen to British universities? So is everyone going to abandon the idea of going to university from now on because they can study online and for free, and maybe not study? I don't know. So this whole situation has opened up a lot of big questions for us. So will coronavirus kill British universities is the big headline. So we're here to find an answer, and who else to ask if not the representatives of British universities direct. But let's meet each other before we get into all those serious questions, and let's try to not make it too serious. So as I said, just to introduce myself, I'm Valeria from Бизнес-Линк Educational Agency, and our job is to help whoever is willing to apply to all these wonderful universities and in the UK, and will help you to navigate the application procedures, the IELTS tests and the paperwork and the choices and the understanding of the system. So while we understand the normal system, we're just trying to together figure out what's the system now. And please, I'm once again very happy to introduce our guests to you. So we have Ella from London. She's representing Goldsmiths University, an amazing artistic, very arty university. We have Mark from Glasgow University, one of a very high-ranking top university, part of Russell Group. You would have known of Glasgow University, of course. Coventry is one of our Ukraine favorite partner university, so many happy students there. And Armin from Study Group, so they offer lots of foundation and pre-master's courses, entry routes to many UK universities. So let me start by asking you all a question. How are you finding it, the whole lockdown experience? You're now in your homes. Can you just maybe just a couple of words to introduce yourself and what you feel about this current situation, just personally, working from home, dealing with the stress of the students and so on. So whoever wants to start, guys.
Sure, I'll go first. So as Valeria was kindly introduced me, my name is Armin, and I'm the Senior Recruitment Manager for Study Group. I look after 6 of our universities in the UK, including Durham, Sheffield, Lancaster, Aberdeen, Cardiff, and Surrey. So essentially we offer a pathway route, so basically foundation routes that for students who want to get a degree in the UK. We'll get into that in detail in a bit, but just to answer your question for now, Valeria, yes, of course. I mean, the situation hasn't been easy, I think, for anyone globally, but it's really fascinating to see how fast everyone has managed to cope with it, change things around to move to online systems, offer whether it's our students the support they need in campus and in the centres, and the staff that do their parts. As part of that is where we stand, and we start working from home. I think for me personally, the experience was a bit difficult at start, not having that casual conversations in the office and meeting students face to face, meeting parents and so. But I think things start to grow, and we're starting to build those relationships again with people and parents, and even our colleagues on even a personal level, because now I can, I'm sitting at home and you can see my background, and you probably see my cat jumping on my keyboard in a bit, and I'm sure
but that'd be
we
good.
learn
Let's see that cat.
I'm sure they will jump in a moment. 2 of them actually. So,
oh, cool.
But I think these things do gradually is that we adopt as we go, and it's a learning experience for us all. But it certainly has shown us commitment and movement forward.
Do you usually work from the office, Armin? Because in Dubai, because I know Study Group, you have an office in Dubai, but do you actually go into like office every day, or do you work from home? Is that more a normal thing for you?
we normally tend to go to the office. So, I mean, the colleagues that do know me, we do travel a lot as well as at Pathway. So at half a year or 6 months of the year, we are on the road and traveling and being outside of the office in the first place. So whenever we are back home, we try to be in the office as much as we can to at least, see the updates and see if still people remember our faces. But yeah, we tend to go to the office as much as we can and just avoid them during the summertime. I'm sure the lovely audience knows how hot Dubai gets during summertime. And for those who don't, it gets up to 50 degrees. So you wouldn't want to leave your home.
Wow. Thanks, Armin. Yeah, so it's funny how all our university students that are applying to UK universities actually go through Dubai first. Us here in Ukraine, and then Dubai, and then UK. So that's the global world for you.
It is a hub. That's true.
Thanks. Anyone?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. So I'm Mark Stansfield. I'm a Senior International Officer at the University of Glasgow. So nice to see so many of you here today. I would really echo what Armin said. I mean, I think it's been a really challenging time for everyone, both in terms of the scope of universities and our jobs and the work that we do, but also just in wider society. I think adjusting to being stuck at home and adhering to social distancing and things has been a real challenge in so many different ways. But I think it's been heartening to see how adaptable everyone has been, how everyone has kind of pulled together, seen some really nice moments of solidarity and I think international cooperation and things, which I think underlines just how important international education is and that kind of joint working and things. In terms of adapting, I think a lot of my time is spent doing this. I think we will all be #1 Zoom experts these days, whether it's in the field of work or catching up with family or doing quizzes and things like that. So I think it's we're in a new virtual reality, a new virtual world, which has been really nice to see. So a challenging time and a worrying time for everyone, but I think there's definitely some hope and a lot of positives to be taken from kind of how things have gone over the last few weeks as well.
The pubs. So the pubs are closed in Glasgow.
The pubs are closed in Glasgow. Yeah. So yeah, that's been interesting. But yeah, there was talk at one point around worries about kind of alcohol not being classed as an essential item. But I think the government was worried that there would probably be some kind of uprising and riots on the street. So thankfully, people are still able to safely go to the supermarkets and get some alcohol if they need it. But yeah, and we were talking at the beginning that the weather has been unseasonably warm and sunny in Scotland as well, so that's posed an extra challenge of being stuck indoors over the potential few days that we'll have of sunshine all year. But anyway, nice to be here and nice to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, so the lockdown and kind of I think the restrictions that we all have in different countries vary. I mean, we're all in this similar situation, but the restrictions vary. So we were talking to Armin just earlier how it was really strict in Dubai. You really had to get a permission, but I think the UK in general, so you still have your transport working. I mean, it's and amazingly the airports are still open and there's flights coming in and out. So for us in Ukraine over here, for example, there's no flights, the borders are closed, unfortunately. What's it like in Coventry, Ben?
That's a good question. So hello everybody, my name's Ben. I work for Coventry University. Coventry has one of the most diverse populations in the UK, so there are lots of different people here. People are still flying in, as you say. There are still people coming home, which is quite interesting. I too have a cat, Arvin, although Nala, her name is Nala. She normally by now, Nala, as in Simba and Nala. Don't ask me why. She's normally coming to say hello by now. As soon as she hears voices, she sort of climbs up onto the table. Coventry has adapted really, really well. My partner works in a school. Well, she did. We're actually 2 weeks ahead, so we're about 9 weeks into our isolation because she's pregnant. So she was sent home a couple of weeks early. So we had a couple of weeks to sort of adjust a little bit. as the guys have said, everybody has really stepped up to the challenge. And I don't know if you know, but in the UK on a Thursday evening, everybody goes out at a set time, and we all clap for the NHS and we clap for our carers and stuff. And it's so nice because we've spoken to neighbours. We've been here 12 months. We've never spoken to them properly. We were out for 45 minutes the other night. The university here plays such a big part within the community. And it's really good because the university are sort of donating stuff. They've donated lots of services to the NHS. So everybody's really got involved with it here. It's really cool.
Wow. Yeah, great. So yeah, thanks, Ben. That's lovely to meet you. And just to say, so Ben's actually currently a student at Coventry University. He's taking his MBA there and he's graduate of Coventry. What did you study?
So my course was law and international studies.
Ooh, right.
Yeah, everybody says that. It was actually, I found it really interesting. I didn't go into law. I came straight into, I worked in the charity sector straight after. So I've not really used my law degree. And now I'm doing my MBA. So yesterday I very hastily put together a last minute assignment, which I shouldn't be doing, but part of university education. So I'm currently a student at Coventry. So I know the system. I've been through it. I kind of know. I'm really lucky, actually. I think.
So we can ask you questions. What's it like for the current students as well? So actually,
Yes,
everyone
absolutely.
listening, please ask us any questions. Yes, if you've got any questions about, how to get to an underground pub or.
And the thing I always say is there are no silly questions. Everybody wants to know something different.
Yeah.
And there are things that London will have, that Glasgow will have, that Coventry will have, and study group will have that are so different.
Yeah.
So it's worth just asking absolutely anything. I can tell you where all the good pubs are. I can tell you where all the bad ones are.
So how far is Coventry from London?
So it's an hour on the train.
1 hour on the train.
59 minutes. So
that's not bad.
Really good for us. Really good.
Yeah.
So I actually walk into the university. So Coventry has a city university. So the city and the university are sort of combined. The city centre, sorry. So I walk. It takes me about half an hour from here.
Oh wow! Yes.
So we're quite lucky.
Cool, thank you. Yes, I'm also really lucky to be able to walk to the office. So I'm here, and you're not seeing my kitchen, but you're able to see our office.
My kitchen's over here.
Cool, thank you, Ella. So we're now in London, 1 hour from Coventry. What's it like for you? What's been?
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Ella. I'm the International Recruitment Manager for Goldsmiths, University of London. It's been a real time of adjustment. I can echo kind of what everybody said so far, in that it's been really kind of a learning curve for everybody, I think. But what's been really impressive is just how quickly universities in the UK have acted, but also how quickly the services and things like that have been altered. So you mentioned transport a second ago, Valeria, and we have had a real kind of cut down of the London Underground and the London bus services, which is really kind of a dramatic thing because that kind of keeps running no matter what. So it really just kind of shows the commitment to kind of the social distancing and the lockdown that we've got in the UK. I think everyone's kind of finding the new normal now and kind of getting into it a little bit as we reach 7 weeks. Our office, the team isn't huge at Goldsmiths. We're not a huge university, and we're trying to kind of keep socializing wherever we can, doing little Zoom lunch breaks together and stuff like that. So I think we will all kind of come out of the other end of this with some extra skills probably, and also being more eager to connect digitally, I think, as well. I don't live near any of my family. I'm not originally from London. So what's been quite nice is I actually find in some ways we talk to our friends and family more during this lockdown, because there's so many things organised through Zoom, like Mark mentioned quizzes. I think I've done more quizzes in the last fortnight than I've done all last year, possibly. Like everybody's arranging kind of games and quizzes online. So yeah, we're all adjusting, and I think you guys might feel the same over in Kiev, but when you are in a city that you're used to being quite busy and quite bustling, and then suddenly everything goes quiet.
Ghost town. It just turned. It's so unusual. It's just very strange.
Yeah, I live on quite a main road. I also live walking distance from work, so it just takes me about 14 minutes to walk to campus. So I'm on quite a busy road, and I'm used to seeing just red buses constantly, you know, like you can imagine London to be. And that's just not the case at the moment. It's a really different kind of city environment.
Yeah, and I heard that London's suddenly turned into a really romantic scenery, because you're only allowed to go in groups of 2. So it's all the people that normally spend time in like restaurants, or you'd be in each other's homes or whatever, now they're all out, let's say, in the park, and you're only allowed to go out if you're exercising, right? So is that right? So it's just couples exercising everywhere.
Yeah, so they're recommending kind of 1 outing per day for exercise. It is some of the parks, most of the parks are still open, some of them have been closed, but you do see kind of couples and families walking around together. If you linger for too long, you might be moved on by the police. So yeah, they are kind of enforcing that as much as they can. It's a hard thing to enforce.
Yeah.
But in general, I think people are really kind of doing their bit to keep within the restrictions.
Yeah. Brilliant. So thanks very much, Ella. So yeah, so I think that the fact that you still have transport working and you still have flights, and you know the airports are operating, that's still, and so a lot of people are able to carry on with their normal work, and we've all got this amazing technology now, as you all said. So just for those of us joining, for those of you joining us now, I can see some more people joined in the last few minutes. So we're having a discussion now with our guest speakers. Yeah, so they're representatives of British universities. And we're here to talk about what's happening now to current students in universities, and we're looking ahead to September start a new academic year, and we're all going to be discussing and chatting about what is it going to be like in September, is it what's the application procedure going to be like, and so on. And this discussion is organized and hosted by Бизнес-Линк. We're an educational agency working with UK only, so all of these are our partner universities. And if you ever have any questions about applying to any of these universities, please do get in touch, or if you can ask us any questions. We've been having questions about visas and visa extensions and accommodation being closed, and the stuff of university students still being in the accommodation, the rent still ticking for that, and all these other things. So let's talk about what it's like for current students. So they've all been evacuated from the UK. Is that what happened? Did you all move online smoothly? What's the plan? What's the plan with the current students for you guys?
If I may go first, at the study group level, we obviously have 16 different universities in the UK. No, we haven't necessarily evacuated students. Students have had the choice to whether they choose to go home or stay in the UK from their accommodations. For those who have returned home, we have refunded them for their accommodation costs as well. So obviously this is a big financial commitment for them to continue their studies online. But what we want to ensure is that we deliver them the same quality of education that they would have received on campus. Now, obviously there's multiple factors there, including how assessments are done, how the attendance is monitored. And I know that the idea of online studies sounds scary at start. When I first heard it myself, I was thinking it's something like watching a YouTube video and then implementing it, which is really not. We are in 2020 now, and some of the platforms that we've displayed are, and I'm sure the colleagues from the other universities will also agree, there's so many different now possibilities for us to get students engaged with us, support them on both social level and academic level and professional level, and all of this sort of things can take on online platforms, including engagement in live sessions, recorded sessions, notes from where students can write their own things on boards and share it with others, share their ideas through blackboards and with the other students. So there's a lot of potential for them to move online. Again, we fully understand this may not be the ideal scenario, but we want to assure students that this is a temporary measure. This is temporary for current students. For students in September, again, it's at the moment it's unknown whether we'll move online or not. But in the case it does, again, it's something that's going to be temporary over month, 2, 3, however long it takes for it to be resolved. The only advice I would have for current students who are considering is that this is now the time for them to start thinking about their decisions. There's so many online courses, free of charge courses for them to look at the different career options that they could have, different studies that they could do in their bachelor's or master's. And given the more time they have on their hands now, this is the right time to start thinking about making those decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've covered quite a lot there. Yeah, thank you. No, thanks very much. No, it's true. I mean, we're gonna talk about all these things. And we can see the questions popping up as well about how can you really compare the online education to the actual experience in itself. And I think that's a big question. And I mean, personally, for me, I've been personally helping students to go and study in the UK for over 16 years. That's what my LinkedIn said anyway. Yeah. But it's not just that. It's so much more than the actual academic content of the thing, isn't it? It's this whole experience. So so what about you guys?
I think Polly's just made a really good point. Excuse me, that it's not just about the education. There is this appreciation that international students want to come to the UK for the experience. I don't think anybody at this point is suggesting that there will not be a non-campus option as it is at the moment. So Coventry's taken a slightly different stance. So Coventry is opening for May. So we have May courses running all online. And part of that reason, excuse me, is so that we can ensure that we're getting the right quality for our students. September, at this moment, nobody's quite sure exactly how it will look. I think we will do the first semester online, and then probably January, February time, international students will be likely invited back onto campus. So I don't think you're going.
Sorry, so you don't think for September? You don't think?
I don't. If I'm 100%, I think it will be online for September. I think that's the stance that most universities will take. I don't know for certain. We haven't been told officially. This is just what we're hearing, is that through different networks that universities are going to take different approaches. I know some universities may not open in September. I think we will definitely be open. We will be 100% open. It's very difficult to bring students onto campus at the moment, though, because we have 30,000 students in Coventry. Wow. We have Warwick University, which is just down the road. To introduce that kind of amount of students wouldn't be safe for students or staff. No. So it is going to happen, and we all have to make some small sacrifices, I think, at the moment. It's not going to be easy just doing it online, but there is, as Armin said, there's so much support. I'm learning at the moment through Aula, which is an online portal that you can sort of be taught through. It's not YouTube videos at all. It's very much my lecturer sat in his t-shirt in his living room lecturing. It's not what you would expect. And actually, to an extent, it's better, because for me, I can go back and watch a video 3 hours later when I've completely forgotten what he said. Go back and watch it when I'm sat writing an assignment. I can go back through it and say, oh, well, this is what he said. And so there's that element of sort of not catching up, but sort of being included in that conversation later on.
Yeah, so I think so what Ben said, he's explained earlier to us that it's quite unusual, but Coventry University do have a May intake, and not many universities do. So the May intake is happening, but it's happening completely online, understandably. And I think none of us can say, and maybe you can comment on that, Mark and Ella, about what's going to happen in September, because we're all listening in for updates from governments and what the decisions are going to be. So it's just in terms of being prepared, and that's so 30,000 students in one university. That's a big decision to manage about when things will start going back to normal, or the normal offline courses. And it's amazing that we're able to carry on with some of the online tuition. But I think the big question there, and that also popped up in the questions, was the price, right? Is it going to affect the price, and what are we going to be charging? What are the university going to be charging for that. And obviously there's so many free courses out there as well at this time. So it's this whole, opens up a whole...
Just while we're talking about free courses, I don't know if anybody's had a Future Learn, but it's a UK, as far as I'm aware, they're a UK-based company. They have international universities from all over the world. Coventry, Deakin University in Australia posts a lot of their content on there, and it gives you a really strong insight into what online education is about. Their courses are free they're open access. You can pay to get credits and different things. Before I joined the MBA, I did quite a few. I really enjoyed them. And even if you're somebody that's been out of education for some time, they just give you those it reintroduces you back into education, which is really interesting as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, Mark, Ella, any comments on what's, yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think I would echo, kind of what's been said. I would say, at Glasgow, we are planning for a number of different scenarios at the moment. We're working very closely with the Scottish government, as well as the UK government, other Scottish and our fellow Russell Group institutions. So I think there's we're planning for a number of different scenarios at Glasgow. I mean, I think the one thing is that it will be a case of, the safety of our students will be, absolutely the priority, and that is the case for the existing students. So we do still have numbers of international students who are still in Glasgow. They are still within our residences that are open.
Yeah.
So we are providing support for those students. And,
brilliant. So they're staying in the residences now.
They're still in the university residences.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So,
wow, okay.
So some students went home, some decided not to, some perhaps couldn't travel home, so just depending on individual circumstances. But we do still have quite a large community of international students who are still within our residences. So we're doing a lot to support those students, both in terms of their learning, but the other kinds of support that they will need when they're far from home and in such a difficult scenario. So yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the scenarios, I mean, I think our thinking will all be pretty similar. I mean, at Glasgow, we're considering a few different options. One is looking for a September start with some kind of blended approach by beginning with some online and then transitioning to on-campus whenever that is safe. We're also looking at the possibility of delaying the start of term slightly. So whether that be, maybe approaching November, if by then it is safe to do so, or whether a January, or start into 2021 is perhaps more realistic. I mean, I think other things that have to be taken into consideration. I mean, we're taking guidance from the government, but like Coventry, we've got 29,000 students at Glasgow, and wow. It's likely that when we do open up, that social distancing will still need to be taken into account, and therefore, if you have a lecture theatre that would normally take 500 students, and all of a sudden you're having to adhere to spacing that out, then that's going to have implications on physical space, on classes and things. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a challenge at the moment. I think all of the institutions represented here today and all in the UK will all be busy scenario planning and working out what might happen.
And probably what will happen is not going to be any of those scenarios. Sorry, it's just that's just me. We're trying to plan things, and then something happens. Like, who would have ever planned this, right? And it's just sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're right.
No, but I think Glasgow University, I have here, it was founded in 1451. So, Mark, you're the most experienced in with the plagues and things. So, how was it managed before?
We'll probably need to troll back through the archives and see how we dealt with the plague. Yeah.
How did they work with Zoom and?
Yeah, good wow. Question. Good question. Yeah.
So 1451 is probably like the first time you ever have to move, your whole 29,000 students online. That's just.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think it's been unprecedented for higher education, certainly in a number of generations. But I think as we touched upon earlier, I think the adaptability and how quickly everyone has reacted. I think this is also underpinning just how important the work that universities do is. Obviously we have a large medical school at Glasgow. We are, as a university, hosting the largest testing centre in Scotland. So very quickly our work has transitioned to focusing on the fight against COVID-19 in terms of working on testing, in terms of our academics going back onto the front line. So our senior academics in our medical school are back in hospitals just now on the front line in the fight. And,
Wow.
I think in recent years there's been a kind of rise in the debunking of the importance of scientific evidence and fact, and the rise of populism and politics and things. And without getting too deep about that, but I think what this has shown is that the importance of the work that higher education institutions do in terms of teaching, in terms of research, in terms of collaboration, both within Scotland, within the UK and internationally, is going to be this disease is found, that will have been developed by academics in a university in conjunction with pharmaceutical companies and things. So I think it's just underlining, just how important, the work that higher education institutions around the world do, how vital that is, and how important that will continue to be, going forward as we face this new reality.
Well, that's a whole different discussion. Maybe we should hold one later about talk about scientific evidence and what is going on anyway in the world, that the whole planet is shutting down, and it's a whole different topic, and I think we're going to get a lot of controversy if we get into that at the moment. But Ella, over to you, please.
Yeah, so very similar to what Ben and Mark have mentioned in terms of what's happening on campus. So we do have some international students who are still with us. We have a number who chose to go home and are now studying online. Goldsmiths is much smaller, so we're about 10,000 students in total. But the challenge we have is that a lot of our courses are quite practical. So we're very popular for the creative arts, for media and communications, and these courses require students to have access to certain facilities, obviously, and also to actually be able to create something as part of the course, whether that be a piece of artwork, whether that's, creating a film or a documentary. So it is a challenge for us to teach online. I think with the timing of when the university closed and when the UK went into lockdown, it was such that it's a point in the term that was quite assessments focused. So it's getting to that point where students are independently working on their projects, and the academics have been able to support them through Zoom tutorials, through seminars in order to discuss work and things like that, and obviously through delivering lectures online as well. But because of kind of the nature of our courses, we are planning to go ahead with face-to-face teaching from September. Obviously, there's a chance that won't be possible.
One optimist.
I'm holding in there. Hanging in there, rather.
Girl power, Ella. I agree. Let's start again in September.
Yeah, I know. That's I want to be back in the office by then. That would be great.
That would be great.
But yes, I think that's what we're planning for. But just like what Mark said, there's lots of backup plans being spoken about. There's lots of contingency planning happening. We want to be in a position where we can give students options that are going to work best for them. Online education, beginning online and then transferring to the UK is one option that's being kind of discussed. Another one is delaying start dates, just like Mark said, to either later in the autumn term or even at the start of 2021. But all of these things are too soon to really confirm. I think across the next 6 weeks to 2 months, as things kind of become a bit clearer and we can see what's happening with the virus in the UK, we'll be looking to make some more concrete decisions and communicate those with our offer holders, so that they have enough time to really make their decisions. But where possible, we're being flexible this year on things like, deferral requests. We realise that students are implicated by this, not just because of kind of the uncertainty, but also in a whole range of reasons and ways, whether that's not being able to take their qualifications, whether that's financial losses through the virus that families are suffering. And we realise there's many reasons they might want to consider deferring, and we're very realistic about that as well, and here to support students in that if that's the right choice for them this year. But for those who want to go ahead, we are hoping to be able to do that.
Thank you. Yes, so just a few things that you've pointed out there. So practical subjects. So Goldsmiths being a very art university. I think we have 3 students with you, and one is doing music administration. I think she's a talented singer as well, and the 2 others are on arts management. And I just spoke to one family there, and so they're all doing essays and they're all doing assignments now, so for Goldsmith. And yes, so we it's good to be in touch with the students and to hear their feedback, and of course it's very, very different trying to being back at home in Ukraine in this case, and trying to study online, to being immersed in London life. And I think what Goldsmith is very much about is being immersed in London and the art scene and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because we're not a huge university as well, community is a really strong part of the student experience.
Right.
And that's another reason we're so eager to bring back face-to-face teaching as soon as it's safe to do so, because there is a lot to be gained from actually being on our campus, being part of the community. And there's also a lot of things outside of the actual course and the degree that a student studies that are valuable. So, all the extracurricular opportunities, whether that's some sort of voluntary work, whether that's being part of a society or getting some sort of enterprise support, if it's a student with a business idea. There's so many other aspects that we offer to students throughout the degree, that we're really keen to be able to start that again as soon as possible. But we are aware that students who are used to having like the London lifestyle, as you say, and are now finding themselves back in their home countries or isolated in the UK potentially, we're really keen to make sure there's a lot of wellbeing support out there for students as well. So all of our wellbeing services have gone online so that students can access all sorts of things, from online activities through to counselling sessions if they're struggling with the lockdown or struggling with any aspect of university life. So that's been really important to get that online as well, to make sure it's available.
Yeah, and the delay of the start date, I think we've also, as partners of so many British universities, we're getting questionnaires from universities about what we think the students will agree to being a new start date. So whether we think November is better or December is better or January, like you say, there's some planning behind all this. But I think the thinking is that maybe end of May, like you said, right? So we think maybe 5 or 6 weeks before we can have a clearer idea. But the good news is, from what I hear you say, is that there will be a starting date. It might be later than anticipated. So patience is one of the games that we're all trying to play here, at least these last few weeks. So there will be a start date. It's just a matter of figuring out when. And if some of the courses are going to be starting online, then that means hopefully a reduction in price and possibly an easier entry. Possibly, is that right? Would you say?
So at the moment, for Goldsmiths, I mean, this will vary obviously from university to university, but at the moment, because our priority is to bring it back to face-to-face on-campus teaching, we aren't looking at offering reduced online learning courses at a reduced price. I mean, this again is something that I'm sure is being discussed by the university executive team. But at the moment, we have the tuition fees published on our website is what we're expecting to be charging in the coming year as well. I don't know if that differs for any other university, but that's currently the status at Goldsmiths.
Can I just make a quick point? So Coventry is making it, so we already have an online facility. We've had CU Online since about 12, 18 months now. So we've already got an online program. And we are looking at lots of different routes for students to take. So we're slightly ahead in some respects because we're able to already teach some of these students. We are looking at some scholarships. We do have some different routes. A lot of people are asking, and I think you just alluded to it there, it's about whether we will be lowering entry requirements. That's another thing that we're always looking at, because we know that not everybody this year is necessarily going to get, one, the result they expected, and two, they may not get a certificate until sort of later on in the year. So we're certainly looking at ways of reducing the stress on students and ensuring as many that want to join us can. And I've just got one quick point as well. I know at the start you alluded to universities being not finding their way, I think is the best way to put it.
No, we have a very drastic headline to this.
Yes, it was quite drastic.
Out of the plan.
And I think that, Mark mentioned about the fact that their university's been around. Actually, you mentioned that they've been around since 1451. Coventry's been around since 1843. I would assume that Goldsmiths have been around. Study group. The universities are here to stay. They are so resilient, and they are so ingrained in the national psyche here that they're not going anywhere. We're not just going to.
Good, thank you. We've answered the question of the headline.
That's it. We can go home now. No, we can stay home, can't we? I think September is going to be a challenge for everybody. The next 12 months, nobody knows what it's going to look like. But whatever happens, universities will pull through this to the other end. Everybody's working towards a vaccine or working towards. There's a lot of research going on in the UK at the moment as well about different types of symptoms and different things like that. We need UK universities, we need nurses, we need doctors, we need scientists, we need lots of different people, and universities to an extent are going to provide that. So I think actually we're going to come out the other end and everybody's going to say, oh, maybe we should be doing more for universities, we should be doing more with our international students. And I think that's how Coventry is definitely looking at it. It's more of a case of, right, okay, this is the problem that we've got. Let's find a million solutions to wipe out some of the concerns that we've got. And I think that's how all universities are going to be looking at it.
And especially, I think you have almost 40% international students, isn't it?
We do, yes.
Yeah, that's a very big... Oh, no, but I mean, that's really great. I think that's a selling point, in a way.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm a student, and my course is slightly different. So my course is professionals. They're all professionals that work within either the local authority, which is a council.
Sorry, just Armin's cat's come in.
Oh, sorry, hello.
That's the most important thing.
Mine is fast asleep, and I would show you a photo, but I don't know if it would work very well. So I've lost my train of thought. My course is slightly different.
So sorry about that.
It's all right.
No,
it's more the cat that I've lost. Lost my train of thought for. My course is made up of lots of local authority and university staff, but our other MBA courses are so diverse. And what I absolutely love, and it's the most incredible thing, is that you start talking about something much like we do on here, and somebody will say, oh, well, in India we do this, and then in China we do this, well, in Lithuania we do this. And people get business ideas, they create so much more, because it's not just 4 or 5 British people sat in a room thinking, oh, this is how we think. Because I think that's how universities used to be. That's what an old way of educating. Whereas now, much like Goldsmiths, we're so much more hands-on. It's much more, well, you tell us what you want rather than us telling you what you need to know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, thank you. No, that's absolutely, it's true. And Mark, I think you had something to say as well. Can I refer back to what Ben mentioned earlier about Russell Group? Is there, because some of the universities are part of these groups that get together and get their heads together, and they try to decide about what they're going to do about this situation. Is there any rumours, Mark?
I mean, I think there's been a number of discussions. I mean, in terms of sort of Universities UK, sort of meeting and lobbying, the government and things in terms of various ways that they could be supporting the higher education sector in the UK. Similarly in Scotland, education is devolved in Scotland. So we have our own education minister and our own kind of University Scotland group, which lobbies on behalf of the 19 higher education institutions that we have in Scotland. Within that as well, I know that the Russell Group universities have also been meeting to discuss the challenges, to share best practice, and I think also to kind of share those contingencies and those scenarios that we've already touched upon, whatever they might end up being. So I think it just sort of highlights across the board the level of collaboration that is, that is rising as part of this, really, really difficult situation. But I think going forward, as Ben alluded to there, I think it will leave us in a much stronger position, and I think hopefully, fly the flag for the good work that that higher education does do, in terms of educating our young people and our international students to go on to do great things in whatever field that might be, but also in terms of the research that we're doing and things as well. So yeah, no strong rumours. I think it's kind of as we've discussed. I think every university is kind of busy planning at the moment, and I think once the advice perhaps in the next few weeks from both the UK government and also the Scottish government. I mean, the Scottish government made the decision to close schools slightly earlier than the UK government did. So I think we have another little period of lockdown coming up, and then hopefully within the next few weeks, when decisions around how we maybe begin to process out of that gradually becomes a little bit clearer, then I think then you'll maybe start to see universities maybe clarifying their position a little bit more, perhaps, but equally, who knows?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'd just like to acknowledge some of the questions that we've been getting here in the chat, and I think one is just to see, so we all and you can see that we're seeing these questions. So there's one about the from Polly. Thank you for asking these questions, and do keep them coming. So we sometimes get too excited talking about the plans that we don't know how to make. But we're still the good thing is we do have a plan for every situation. So Polly's asking online education in the UK versus Coursera, which are cheaper, and as it's been mentioned before, there are some even free opportunities at the moment. Many leading universities putting up their courses up online for free as a way to support people during this time of quarantine. So that's one interesting question to pick up maybe and to discuss. I think Igor says, I think online education is less effective. Personally, I couldn't agree more, to be honest. So let's discuss that as well. And you've touched upon that as well. Medicine and also lab-based courses, right? So how is that going to happen online? That's we've seen bits of engineering online thanks to Armin's organization. There was a way of how you study that. Kind of in a distance, but so just these are a couple of questions, and then I think Veronica asks about studying translation or interpretation and things like that. So yeah, it's a really interesting wide variety of subjects that people are studying, and as Ben mentioned, we need the nurses, we need everyone. It's all these different professions. Wow, it's such a big thing to move everything online. So let's talk about this. The moving online versus all these free opportunities. Should people take these free opportunities and just experience those courses and just wait for it all to go back to normal? Would that be the way, do you think, or?
So I'm sure colleagues will answer some of the questions in there as well, but if I can start with the first question around whether choosing an online course or rolling in a degree. So I think eventually, so when we say we're moving online, doesn't mean that we're going to deliver a degree online. This is, again, as we all stated at the beginning of this webinar, that this is a temporary measure as a worst case scenario. So again, when we say that we're moving online, this is not a decision that myself or Ben or Mark or Ella are making. This is a decision, again, by the UK government to ensure the safety of both the staff and our students, both international and home. So to begin with, the idea of online is just a temporary matter in the necessity case that we need to go online. And that's going to be for either a period of time, so whether it's a couple of months or whether it's a one semester or even a matter of weeks, but eventually it is for them to get a degree from the UK. And when we say a degree from the UK, we're saying a degree from a recognized university. So either a master's degree or bachelor's, master, PhD. We have some universities that are top 100 in the world, or Russell Group universities. Again, these are degree options that students will achieve at the end of studies while studying in the UK. This online, the idea of online is not something that we intend to do for long term. We understand that many students are joining the university as international students for the experience. I did mention this at the start. I was an international student myself, and for me as well, it was about the experience, not just about getting the degree itself. So that's on that. And then on the argument of the tuition fees being affected and entry requirements. So entry requirements, yes, as colleague mentions, they're all working on altering those. We have certainly altered or lowered our entry requirements to accept students with provisional grades, with first semester results. Now we accept other forms of English, like the Duolingo password, at some of our top-ranked universities. So at Durham, which is a top 100 university globally, at Cardiff and Sheffield, that are top 100 and top 150 in the world, we do accept these tests. But eventually, these are the necessities that we have, the measurements that we have to take in the case that we move online. As far as the tuition goes, again, like Ben mentioned earlier and Ella mentioned earlier, but right now we're still uncertain whether we're going to go online or not. We cannot start cutting tuition fee for a degree that is likely or unlikely to be online in full. The second factor is that this is just a temporary measure, as we repeated from the start. So even if we do go online, we're going to deliver this for the first few weeks, or few months. Again, at the end of the day, the students are getting the same quality of education. And I fully understand the questions around medicine and around, for example, engineering labs. And for instance, for what we're doing or what we're intending to do for our students starting in September is to postpone that modules that require lab work towards the end of the semester or the second semester, to give that opportunity for students to still do those on campus. And I want to emphasize on that point again, because I know this is about experience. And this online measures that we're taking is just temporary if required. But it's not, most certainly, it's not the case that we're choosing it as a favorable way of moving forward.
So just to add a little bit more of a personal edge to it. So Armin, where did you study?
I actually studied in Ireland, in Dublin, in Trinity College Dublin.
And where are you from, if you don't mind?
No, of course. So I'm really mixed, in a culturally mixed, I would say, because I'm originally from Iran, but I've never lived in Iran. I've lived in UAE and Dubai. I've lived in the UK, and I've lived in Dublin. So for me, moving around has been a sort of part of my life, and I did enjoy the part of being an international student, and it certainly opened a lot of career opportunities for me, and I'm sure that for a lot of students it's the same idea. It's not just about just a degree.
Exactly. And what did you study?
I did a master's in international management. International management. I was fascinated about the idea of internationalization. I think it's part of why I'm doing this job. And as we all know, we do live in an international world these days. So it's definitely a route that I do pursue, do love, and part of the experience of being international.
Yeah, and so now that's what you're doing now, managing internationally as well, right? You manage a team?
Yes, and I think taking this role outside of what we do right now, where we're sitting at home and talking to you, but when it's outside of that, we get to travel internationally. We meet people from all over the globe. So I think that's really what a big part of why we chose this career route, to be involved in that. And it is entirely a different aspect of what we imagined world would be. We're no longer, occupied by a city or even a country. We live in a different, more modernized world.
That's right, in a global world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow. And just to introduce you to also all of you a little bit more. So Ella has mentioned she lived in Thailand, and is that right?
Yes, yeah. So after I graduated for my bachelor's degree, I moved out to Thailand to teach English for a year. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of had a very international outlook and taken a lot of opportunities to see different parts of the world. But I actually worked in a private school in Thailand, so that gave me a bit of exposure to kind of the kind of the industry of education, let's say. So
is that in Bangkok, or is it?
Yes, well, it was in a city just north of Bangkok called Nonthaburi, but it was about 45 minutes from Bangkok, so not.
So not the beautiful islands that we all picture when we think Thailand.
Yeah, definitely. I lived on the side of like a 6-lane highway, so yeah, very different from that. But yes.
So, but you studied also. You studied in the UK, right?
I did, yeah. So I studied at UCL in London.
Wow.
And then since kind of moving abroad and then working at other universities in higher education and recruitment, I've since then moved on to Goldsmiths, which is the University of London University. So it shares some commonalities with UCL, like some shared facilities and some shared services to students, for instance, the careers services and things like that. So they were already things I was very aware of from a student perspective as well.
Yeah.
And they are kind of, linking it back to what we're talking about what you get from a university experience.
Yeah.
That network, and that is really, really valuable. It's that support in things like careers services, employability, placement services, all of these sort of aspects that are available to you as a student. If I may, I just wanted to answer the question about the difference between doing online courses versus doing an online degree.
Yes, please.
I think one of the biggest things that kind of I noticed, and I'm by no means an expert of what's available on Coursera, and maybe a lot more than I'm familiar with, but from what I've seen, a lot of the free courses on there are mainly content which is recorded and that you watch, like video content that you watch and you learn from. But obviously that's really only one way of learning. That would be like doing a degree that is entirely taught through lectures, and there's not so much engagement available through that. If you were to do an online distance learning degree, or for instance the students we have at the moment who are temporarily studying online, it's not simply video content that they have to watch. It's much more kind of proactive than that. So there's seminars, there's discussion groups. We'll be putting all sorts of different platforms out there for students, from WhatsApp groups so that they can kind of discuss and plan projects, all the way through to doing, Zoom breakout rooms, to do, small team activities. It's much, much more kind of interactive than you might first imagine from an online degree, and certainly a lot more interactive than some of the free content that's out there at the moment. So I think that's one of the benefits. And of course, the courses that we have moved online are still being taught by our academic staff. So our students still have direct contact with the academic staff, whether that's to ask a question or discuss a topic or to get feedback on their work. And again, that's not something that you would typically find available to you if you're doing a free course.
Yeah.
Just a quick point on that. Yeah. Sorry, Ella's got a really good point, but it's also about quality. Yeah, and that's something that gets missed out sometimes in these instances. Free courses are not going to be, and I know somebody mentioned about online education not necessarily being the same, having the same effect. The quality, if it's taught by a university, will be exactly the same. There is not going to be any different, I don't think. And the Open University is one of the largest universities in the UK. They do have a facility, they do have a campus in Milton Keynes, but actually 90% of what they do is distant learning. And they've been going since 69 or 70, 1970s. So there is definitely a track record of these things working. And I think a lot of people are it's almost like an awareness or a scared of the unknown. But it's all about quality, and looking to a university to provide the right kind of quality degrees.
Yeah, but it's not like replacing, like everyone said that the ebooks will replace books forever, and that's not happened, thankfully.
Yeah, people like the engagement of university, don't they? We've discussed earlier about it not just being it's an experience. It is 100%, and online will still be an experience. You'll still talk to people. It's a random thought, but my partner and I were doing an antenatal class the other day, which we never thought we'd have to do online. It's completely different. It's so far removed from what we thought it was. But actually, it's lovely. It's really nice. We get to talk to people, and then at the end, these sessions last for about an hour, and then you spend the next hour, if not 2 hours, having a cup of tea or a gin and tonic, talking to the people that you've met on that call, and then some of them you meet them afterwards. So the plan is that once lockdown is finished, then everybody's going to meet up. So there's still that connection. We're not losing the connection. We're just changing slightly. We're diversifying, I think is the term. And students need to learn how to do that. So this is the best opportunity in the world to learn how to diversify and think about things differently.
Yeah, I think it's such an extra, you need to put in so much effort to get yourself out there, to go to this different country, to learn a language, to get yourself out and to actually find the motivation and also the investment to do it. It's such a big thing, and we're all hopeful that it will be possible again to interact personally on a personal level, and all these benefits of talking to teachers and professors and people from all over the world, international students, UK students, being immersed in the UK. There's so much that is there when the actual studies are going ahead. So I think we're all looking forward to it all going back to normal. Yeah. So I think we're, thank you all very much for this discussion. We're kind of coming to an end here, and maybe some final remarks in the end. If some people, if those of you listening, thanks for hanging on all this for this whole hour, and for listening and for your feedback. If you have any more questions, please, that now's the time to ask them. So we'll have time to answer them, and we'll be very happy to pick them up. But just some final remarks in the end, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and I didn't yet, what about the graduation ceremonies? Are they going to be on Zoom again? That's just really sad and disappointing, isn't it, for everyone?
So, I would think that most of us actually, so we have a graduation ceremony in our cathedral, which is absolutely stunning. I mean, it is one of the most amazing things on campus, but we have to video it every year because there are not enough seats. So actually videoing graduation ceremonies are pretty normal for universities now. We have live, you can go in and watch it wherever you are. So members of staff are not actually allowed to attend because there aren't enough seats. So we get to watch them online. So that's a pretty normal thing.
But if you're graduating, that's just really sad, isn't it? Because you can't go in, and you can't.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, but I would think that there will be some form of, I think you might get your certificate in advance and then have a graduation ceremony later on.
Yes, make sure
because
there's a party.
It's such an important part. I think it was the head of the Vice Chancellor at Warwick. As soon as this all sort of kicked off, he released a video message to all of his staff and students. And at the end, he's basically promised the whole of their campus the biggest party that the country's ever seen. So we're all going to Warwick the last day of lockdown because the Vice Chancellor has promised us a party. And maybe we can hold I'm sure there will be graduation ceremonies. We run them all over the world, and I'm sure colleagues do as well. So there will be options. I'm absolutely sure that we will sort something out for that.
Well, let us know the date. We want to join.
Yes, well, you can join by webinar. You might not get a seat.
We've announced that we're just going to have a celebration for our graduates once this is over. So it will be a kind of replica. So they will get their certificates in advance so that they can proceed to employment or further study or whatever they're doing. But we will be having the full ceremony with gowns and the usual reception at the university just as soon as it's safe to do so. So that's something that their students have worked hard for a year or 3 years or 4 years. So I'm making sure that they're going to get that party day that they look forward to at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. We're coming to the wrap up of it, and I think what was been said today was that all the universities are going to be more flexible with the entry points, and especially the deadline of e-application, and understanding that there's some exams have been cancelled. There might be a delay with getting the school certificates and things like that. There's more flexibility with IELTS and other tests being accepted, some university direct tests and things like that. there is still a big question mark up in the air about whether or not September entry will or will not be online, but it will be happening. The exact date of the new term or the new academic year start is still under consideration. There's a lot of discussions being held, and hopefully we'll all keep each other informed, and as soon as there's any information out there, we can have a discussion again, we can have a meeting to explain or to try and understand ourselves what's going on, and just to talk through these things. And we're very happy to feedback back to you, and please sign up to all of our social media or our email newsletters, so we'll keep you all in the picture for that. So it's great to see that there is flexibility. There is a possibility of new prices perhaps with the blended learning or the online learning, or not. We'll see, depending on these, how these discussions go. So I think these are the main things that were said, right? And of course the quality of blended learning or online learning is still going to be top for UK universities, and they're not going anywhere, as we have learned. Yes, so there is a question, what level of English is required to enter British university? Yes, and Roman's just answering that. So IELTS 6.0, but it does.
That's a good question. So that will depend on the university as well and the course, because accredited courses in the UK do require a higher level of IELTS.
Yeah.
But most business courses is at 6 for bachelors.
So any closing remarks, guys? Let's hear from all of you.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to finish by saying that we kind of really appreciate how difficult it will be this year for students to make a decision with so much uncertainty. Education is a big commitment in time and also money, and it's definitely not something that we as universities take lightly. We're here kind of to give you as much support as possible, which is why we're doing things like this today. But also, I know that most universities now have dedicated information pages on their website specifically related to COVID-19 and specifically for incoming applicants. So, if there is a particular university you're looking at for this year, that's a good place to start kind of reading up on what September might look like. But also that's a really good place to get your updates, whether that's on, are we going online or are we delaying the start date? All of those sorts of things will be published because we want to get that information across to you as soon as possible. But I'd just like to say thank you very much for tuning in today and for asking such really engaged questions. If you do have any questions, I know Valeria and her team would be happy to put you directly in touch with any one of us if you have questions relating to our specific universities. Thank you.
Thanks, Ella.
I think we're all going to echo what Ella said, haven't we? Just say thank you. And obviously, if you've got questions or queries, the one thing that I would say about this time is use it wisely. We've never seen a period of time where time has effectively stood still for a lot of us, and this is the ample opportunity to brush up on your English skills. As Armin said earlier, look at a new skill, look at something that you hadn't thought about. If you're looking at going into medicine, look at business, look at something else that you're also interested in, and just take this time to really engage with education. Yes, it's free, but the quality will still be there if you're looking at the right kind of courses. But just ensure that you don't just sit and not do something. Just do something, is what I would say.
And to add to Benjamin's points, I definitely agree. And again, I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. I know this is a difficult time, and we understand the difficult situations, but we will do our best to accommodate as much as we can. I do think there's another question there, Valeria, about academic integrity, which we haven't touched much on. And if I may just answer quickly from my experience, at least with one of our universities, where at the International Study Centre at Surrey, where we have such platforms, we understand, again, it's not as easy. monitoring examinations and so. But the various techniques that we have in place for whenever an exam is conducted, including students turning on their webcams when they take the exam. If they take their eyes off the screen, it picks it up, the screen. So these things are very much advanced software. So online studies now is very different from what online studies was 10-15 years ago, or when even students leave the keyboard without typing something, it picks it up immediately. And if they've not touched the keyboard in a minute or two, that's picked up again and monitored and send a notification to the examiners. So all of these things are being considered. We fully understand that it's not going to be the same. It's a new experience, but we do what we can. We do take these measures to ensure that academic integrity is assured in our studies.
Yeah, wow. No, thank you for picking up that question. So if any of you colleagues have any comments to add on that, that's a very good point. And I think we've also had at Бизнес-Линк questions from our existing students, current students in universities about their exams and how that was going to be assessed. That's just amazing, the technology. I remember being impressed like 20 years ago, hearing that British universities had the technology to spot the copy-paste sort of thing, that nothing that Ukrainian universities heard of. But that's now it's all these new advanced levels. Really impressive. Thank you. Yeah, Mark?
Yeah, and finally for me, I guess just echoing what everyone else has said. So thanks very much for coming along today. Hope you've found it interesting and useful. It is challenging. I know that there are lots of big questions that you have that that we still can't offer. But I would just echo what the others have said. Please keep in touch both with Бизнес-Линк and with ourselves. We're doing all we can to be as flexible and as adaptable and as open and as we can be in what we know is a really worrying time in so many different fronts. It's probably not the period you were expecting as you were planning your building up to move. I think look after yourselves, take care, and please keep in touch.
Wash your hands.
If there's anything, wash your hands, and if there is anything we can do to help, then please let us know. But thank you all for listening, and hopefully see you in the UK soon.
Yeah, thanks very much. So I'd just like to also say that thank you very much for joining us, all of you, Mark, Ella, Armin, Ben. It's been a great honor and a privilege to host this discussion for us here at Бизнес-Линк. It's really great, and thank you for being so open and for keeping us in the loop of all this information. That's really, really useful. Keep that coming, please. We want to hear all your news and rumors, unconfirmed as well. That's also good. And I think also to encourage all our listeners, and thank you for staying on, and there's people on Facebook as well as on the webinar page. It's great that you're planning and that you're interested and that you're listening to this. And I think generally the strategy is the correct strategy. It's just the tactics that's being influenced. So whether it's going to be this September or next September or January or that's right, the time is a bit difficult at the moment, but the strategy is right. It is amazing. It does get you international careers. I mean, we look at this group of people, young professionals working in their education. It's really impressive what we can do now in this global world. And if anything is going to get you there, that's definitely British education, I think. So from a little bit of an announcement for more of these meetings in the future. So if you like that, let us know. Please give us any feedback. Because we're learning, and this is the first online discussion that we've had. We'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. If you thought that was good or not so good, or what you'd like to hear about more, we can contact directly any of these guys later to have a more in-depth discussion about anything, or maybe introduce, the universities in more detail, because I think there was a question more about the advantages of studying in each of these universities, and that'll be a whole different meeting. So we're happy to take on any opportunities like that. Let us know. We're happy to be talking to you. And just as an announcement, next week we're going to have a virtual visit, a webinar to Harrogate Ladies. It's a boarding school up north in England for girls. It's an all-girls school. So if you want to visit an all-girls school, if you've never been to one, you can join our webinar. And there will be a student logging on as well, and a current student. And I think we'll meet the head and we'll have a nice meeting with them. Then the following week, we also have a virtual visit to another boarding school called Sidcutt School, also in the UK, and Surrey University. So we'll have another meeting with Armin here and study group, and we'll hear more about the opportunities there in Surrey University, and we'll find out how they are going through planning for next September, and what's it like to study in Surrey. It's a beautiful place near London as well. We're planning a demo IELTS lesson online as well, all completely free. So just join us if you're interested in some tips for your IELTS as well. And any other suggestions of what plans for all this online quarantine we should have, let us know. We'll put it in the schedule, and we'll work around it. And once again, thanks very much all of you for being here, and thank you to our speakers and the amazing Бизнес-Линк admin team that make this technology possible as well. It's all a miracle. I don't know how this works. So there's been invisible admins and team online, so thank you guys. It's been really amazing, all working and everything, so great. Any questions, please email us. We'll pass it on to our partners. So for the meantime, thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of it. I hope the sun comes back out.
Thank you.
Yeah.